뜨거워. What the heck? Why is it doing that?
These days, I've been embracing the notion of trying less, doing less, and being happier. My days have been looking simple, not putting so much pressure on myself to optimize my performance or to be productive, because I don't want to live from a place of reaching outside of myself. When I look into my future, I see that I have acquired everything I wanted out of life by acting from a place of security and trust, and specifically not from a place of frantic hustling and doing in order to prove my worth to anyone that's willing to pay any attention to me. I see a Whitney that is so rooted in her values. And by the way, I did take a values test, and out of 50 values given, my 2 were truth and well-being. I see a Whitney so rooted in these values from everything that she does. It comes back to truth and my well-being. That I know that my life in the future will be abundant and full of joyful magic, while also there being a balance of pain and suffering and heartache. I think so many of us are tired of taking up space in a way that doesn't fully feel like us, because that's what we've been told conventional success requires of us. But what if authentic success happens when we lean into our natural embodiment and embrace that side of us and lead with that? I think it could be that. So the question is, how can we strive for less and be happier? I was sitting with this question and I think I found an answer, a potential solution. Maybe it'll work just for me, but I'll share. And that is to throw our whole selves into every single thing that we do. Letting our senses expand as we're wiping down our cabinets or walking our dog, or I don't know, like doing work that we don't really want to do, but we throw ourselves into it. And that doesn't mean to let the chaos swirl us away, but it actually means the opposite. To ground, be aware that this is us living in this moment, maybe doing things that we want to do or not really want to do, but this is living. This is life right now and it's happening. Ooh, this is a little meditation, task focusing meditation. When you feel overwhelmed with work, take a few seconds to relax and breathe deeply. Accept that you cannot do everything at once. You can do only one thing at a time. When we're cleaning our room, did we actually clean our room, or did our body just move in order to carry out the act of cleaning our room? There's a difference. I learned this term in my insight meditation course called clear comprehension, and it means being totally aware of whatever you're doing. So when you're brushing your teeth, being aware of how you're brushing your teeth, what order are you going in? When you're washing your dishes, being aware of which plates you're washing first, what your rhythm is in that. One place where I really want to practice clear comprehension, because it's such a convenient opportunity to ground back into the now, is when I'm on the toilet. Literally, like, how am I peeing? How am I pooping? Being totally aware of the body sensations, the relief that it brings me, or what other feelings that it brings me. I feel like on the toilet, my mind escapes into another dimension and I start thinking, I just zone out whenever I'm using the toilet. And sometimes it's a good zone out, but when it's a bad zone out, it could literally affect my mood for the next couple of hours, honestly. So being aware that I'm on the toilet and there's nowhere else for me to be, there's no mind fantasy world that I want to escape to. I want to be here now and feel the pee coming out. Hello, Mr. Cheddar. When I see Cheddar using the toilet outside, peeing on my garden bed or pooping in my garden bed, he seems so aware of how that poop or pee feels. You know, he's like so committed to the act of toileting. I rearranged my room too, so he's looking at the super different setup that we have going on. It's a little bit unstable. Maybe I'll put this one away for now. For a very long time, I told myself that I needed to be far away from my current reality in order to experience the joy and fulfillment and love that I have been deeply yearning for. I put my happiness on the other side of all of these actions, and I realized that that perspective was the very thing that brought me so much disconnect and despair. I told myself that I needed to move out and no longer live with my parents because harmony with them was impossible. And that perspective caused me to show up in a way that only enabled a difficult dynamic between me and them. But recently, I started to embrace living with my parents. I started to actually love it and find so much community with the silent presence or intentional time that we spend together. And our relationship has genuinely started to blossom. I could have spent the next time of my life working hard, trying to move out in order to run away from them. But then I wouldn't have learned that it was actually me that needed to change. And the personality traits that only encouraged a certain dynamic with them would have followed me, and I would have been avoiding them for the rest of my life. Oftentimes, the things that we're working so hard for are a guise to what we're trying to run away from. Bringing attention to a truth that the habit of running away from not ideal circumstances will follow us. Right now, we can start building a practice of sitting with the discomfort, sitting with our current circumstances, and learning to find the beauty and infinite insight within each and every moment.
There are police reported ahead.
I have come out here with my dad. This is actually a nature spot that I found. My dad is super into kayaking and fishing at the same time. Very successful at it too, might I add. He sometimes, like during the peak of summer, he would bring home 15 fish and he caught all of those while kayaking. So hopefully this is a good spot for fishies to be caught and to be brought home and to be feasted upon. But if not, it's totally okay, because this is like the first father and daughter activity I have done with my dad in a very long time. That's coming from a place of like so much love and adventure and beauty. I feel like a lot of the times when I would do one-on-one stuff with my dad, it would be the same things over and over again, just going to his spot at the beach, tagging along. But this is so different because I brought him to a place where I was the one that found out about it, you know, like I brought him more into my life. Today is a very different day. My time with my dad on this earth is so limited. I know that this moment right now is so special and so finite. I have not been a good daughter. I haven't. And I say that with so much love and compassion and human understanding towards myself and how I've been showing up with my parents over the past life. But I haven't been a good daughter. My mother and father wound have been so deep where I just haven't been able to see them as fellow people, honestly. I really want to start changing that. I want to start showing up in a way that recognizes them as their own individual humans, just trying to do their best as they go about their life. And there's so much resentment, there's so much disappointment. It's honestly like overwhelming at times. But I also could see as I'm getting older too that I don't know if I would want to have anything be done differently. That's the thing, like do I actually want them to be different? Because if they were different, then I wouldn't be who I am today. And I love who I am today. I love every single part of myself. Actually, that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm working towards loving all of the parts of myself, including my shadows, including the parts of Whitney that have formed out of fear and survival because of the lack of emotional availability from my parents. But I don't know, I feel like I'm so focused on the negative, if that's like the only thing I keep on coming back on. That's not the entire truth, and I know that. I know it's not the entire truth.
잘했어. 뭐야 나도.
아빠,
어?
여기 내 고기 여기 있어.
봤어. 그 포기야.
고기 있어, 맞아?
있겠지 고기는.
it's just a dead fish floating over there. I wonder if that was someone's bait or if it died and another fishies tore it apart.
매운탕 끓여 먹어도 되겠다. 가서 매운탕 끓여 먹을까?
이거랑? That's kind of gross. No. Wow, someone caught a lot of fish here.
여기.
They released
죽은
it
거네.
all.
여기 이게 피시 죽은 거야.
Yeah. The most ironic and comedic thing of all is that we think that we would be happier if we were somewhere else or we had something more. And that is partially a lie. I mean, partial truth. It could be true depending on how convinced you are of that story. But for me, I don't want to wait until something to start feeling content and in love with life right now. And it's so interesting because the more I prioritized finding joy and practicing gratitude with my current reality, the more I was able to see the blessings that are already in my life. It reminds me of that book, The Alchemist, and how the main character traveled so far across lands to find his treasure. And it turns out that it was right at his starting point. And I could relate to that I thought that the treasure was outside of my home, outside of me. And all it took for me to access that treasure was coming back home. Literally, because I was so hungry, so this sourdough slice really hit the spot, and also spiritually. I guess with my upbringing kind of building me to be a fighter, a warrioress, if you will, that affected my adulthood because I started to think that all good things need to be fought for, that good things don't come easy. And that was a belief that I kept on reinforcing with every single area of my life. For my friendships, for example, I thought that the more rupture and repairs that a connection endures, the higher quality the connection must be. But in actuality, that just means that two people are probably incompatible for each other. With my career, I thought that I needed to follow trends and post content in a very conventional success timeline. And when I did do that, I would feel so drained and disconnected from my truth. Now I realize that good things actually do come easy. Good things could come easy. Not do, but they could. An example where I learned this lesson again was finding community. In my previous video, the friendship breakup that changed my life, I briefly disclosed how all my friendships have come to an end, basically. And now that I'm trying to find community, I was putting myself out there with these events that are like an hour-long commute away. But then I realized I did not enjoy traveling that far just to socialize with people. The lesson appeared in my life because I'm like, wow, if I don't like the commute, then how could me going to these social events be right for me? And that's the standard that I hold myself to now. I need to like everything about it, A to Z. And that doesn't mean that it'll be effortless and it'll come with absolutely no hurdles and no discomfort. But I think I'm recognizing now that if I'm not enjoying the journey of it, if anything, that a part of the journey is depleting my soul, then the method of me going about my goals and my aspirations are probably not right. I love a good challenge. I love sticking to things, like sticking it out and not quitting and really following through. But if that following through is making us feel tired of living, then something's not right. If the journey is bringing us so much disconnect from ourselves, then are we really going to enjoy the end result once we get there? How could we, when all of the steps that we've taken up to that point was from a place of self-sacrifice and not really being attuned to our more subtle preferences and desires? At this point in my life, I'm really focusing on just the simple joys that are in my immediate surroundings. I really don't have to travel far to experience the joy or experience community or purpose or fun, enrichment. It's all right here. And I was just so convinced that, oh, I probably need to put work into this, and it probably needs to be a little bit more difficult than this. So that's why I was putting myself out there. The further I went out, whether it was energetically or physically, the less satisfied I felt. I think there is something sacred and potent and magical about staying close to our home. And that's not to discredit the amount of fun and adventure long distance things could bring us, but are we immediately skipping to that without properly reflecting on, is what we need right here, right now? Because you know that affirmation that we have everything we need to create our dream life? Let's lean into that. We have everything we need to create our dream life. So what are we ignoring? What are we skimming over? What did we dismiss prematurely? It's quite lovely because at the beginning of this year, my New Year's intention was to deepen within myself. And I realized that in order to do that, I imagined like a tornado or like a whirlpool, a spiral. I want to deepen into myself through a concentrated spiral. But if I expand myself too fast and prematurely, then I just thin myself out, and my essence also becomes thin. My power and my truth becomes diluted, and maybe at one point in my life I'll be ready to do more from a place of richness. But right now I feel so called to stay concentrated and really deepen. Find happiness here because I know it's available here right now. It just requires a different perspective. I've been loving this thought experiment these days, this mental experiment of how can I transform my beliefs? How can I transform my thoughts to bring me the most amount of joy at this very moment? So if I'm hearing something or seeing something in my house that's triggering me and it cues a train of negative thoughts, I could pause, observe that this is unpleasant, but also think about what other perspective could I adopt that would actually be super nourishing for my heart. Oh, my living room is messy? No, it's full of art. It's full of creation. And even if it's not my style, it for sure is inspiring me to create. I don't have friends and I'm lonely. Well, that loneliness is the very thing that motivated me to deepen and better my relationship with my family, the people who are actually meant to be in my life long term. I invite you to do this mental thought experiment together and see how over the next couple of weeks that our mood slowly shifts into a more positive leaning, more abundant feeling one. I hope this video liberated you as much as all of this does for me, because I have been suffering and in a very negative space for years, thinking that the answer was to run away, but I just needed to change. I'll see you soon.